Yeah, her French name, her French name.
Political commentary name. How do I change it? I don't know. You know who I am.
All right, so we're gonna start, Cynthia. Welcome everybody to our November 12th regular scheduled Board of Finance meeting. Please join me for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everybody. I want to welcome James Hancock, a new member. You took over for Bobby Joe from here. Welcome, everybody.
Good conservative voice. Welcome.
Yes, definitely. So our first thing on the agenda is public input. Nothing. Any correspondence, Mary?
No.
Nothing either? Okay. So nothing there. So consideration from the minutes of October 8th meeting. Everybody has a copy of those minutes. Everybody have a minute to read. Obviously, we're going to have one abstention here, but
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the meeting minutes from our regular scheduled October 8th, 2024 meeting.
excellent. Do we have a second motion? We have a second by Will. All right. All in favor, so you're saying aye?
Aye.
Cynthia, you're good, and you're going to abstain, obviously. Okay, so one exception. All right. I can't believe we're right down to the comptroller's report, but it wasn't worth taking this off the hanger.
Glad he's not late.
So we'll start with the comptroller report and then we'll talk about the S&P and the refunding first.
Yep.
So the report you have in front of you that was sent out was missing two of the pieces of the revenue. So just want to update you on that. So the current year we've collected 56.07%. Prior year, same time, 56.06. So we're on track for the same collection rate. The other piece that we didn't have at time that the comptroller report was done is interest. So on your report, we show $739,000 collected. It did have the two biggest pieces of interest that we get every month. So right now we're at 927,919. So really 928,000, which puts us 42% over what we budgeted for. So we're at $275,000.
And Brad, can I just,
Yeah.
James, that is the interest we get on our fund balance. And again, we try to be conservative what we carry, as a revenue source, but we're well over because of obviously interest rates. So,
Yeah, sure. Those are the two big things I wanted to point out in the revenue line. We did get the first payment from the state for the equal cost sharing. So you'll see that's a little bit under 25%. It's because the state cut it after we set our budget, which we talked about previously. After we set the revenue projections, the state went out and didn't cut ECS. They reallocated it to the magnet schools. So pretty much they took some of the town's money that was going to go to the neighboring towns and gave it to the cities. So that was a nice little how do you do after we set our budget. Our revenue projection in interest alone, we've already passed the 200,000 that we're missing there. But it still doesn't feel good.
Well, what was that equation, Brad? So we lost on the funding, but we added on the interest. But what was the gap?
So the state, when they redid the ECS, when they set their budget, they didn't lower the amount that the state was putting into ECS. Bethel's percentage just dropped.
Right.
So it cost Bethel to the tune of $200,000.
Oh, so it's just a wash, the interest.
So the interest is going to make it. It's already made it up.
But
But again,
it's even. It's not like,
Yeah. So before this year started for revenue, because we got that after we set our budget before July 1, we were in a $200,000 hole in revenue because of that.
so we just made it up.
We've made it up, but we also know on the expense side, utilities is a problem. Utilities going to the expense side, we know utilities is going to be a problem. We did, we're still monitoring that to see what that really is going to do to us. Right now, we're still in the holding pattern of we're not looking to make any changes right now. We're not looking for budget adjustments. We're hoping to make up anything that utilities goes over without having to do a budget adjustment. And we're watching it. Dan and I talk way too much about utilities, but it's the life we're living now. Update you too. We've gone through, I think we've met with all of them. Do we have don't know if we have any more department heads meet with, but we did all of our quarterly, we've done most of our quarterly budget reviews with department heads. Everything seems like it's on track. Some people are trending ahead because we have some vacancies that we know of that we need to fill. Some we're holding on filling those vacancies because we know we have holes. Not necessarily that we don't need the position, but we're figuring out how much we need the position, right? On some of these things. A good example of that is the IT department. Our old IT manager left. He left for another town. The assistant got promoted into the lead role. We haven't filled the assistant position yet. Some of it is we didn't want somebody new to that role having to then try to learn his new role and train somebody. Some of it is, in the meanwhile, we'll take savings while we figure it out. That's probably going to take a while to assess. Do we need that second person full time? Do we need, so we're watching all that. We're just not going to jump in and fill a position that we're not necessarily sure we need, but we have been filling other vacancies. We just hired a new building maintenance person because a building maintainer retired. We have a truck driver position open, and it doesn't affect the general fund, but there's a utility position open. And in the health department, I don't know the official title, but he was more or less the assistant health director, left 3-4 months ago, and those positions are just hard to fill. So we're working on it, but we're not going to just hire to hire. Dan likes to say slow to hire, quick to fire. But we're trying to find the right person for the position. So in the meanwhile, there are some savings there, which are helping some of our other problems, but we are just watching all that. The other piece of it that we hope to have savings on is tomorrow is our bond sale. I know we talked a little bit about it, but I'll talk a little bit more about it. So we have outstanding bonds to the tune of $27 million that we have the ability to refinance. We started this process a month and a half ago. The first major step in that was to get rated again by S&P. So S&P came out. We sent them a bunch of our financials, and then we had an 1.5 to 2 hour meeting with them to go through any questions they had, all of our financials. And they came back, as I shared with the board, that they reaffirmed us as AAA. Not only did they reaffirm us as AAA, but they gave us a stable outlook, which is like, it sounds boring, but that's like, because we're AAA, that's exactly what we want. Stable outlook, good, reaffirmed, great. Especially with everything that happened with Danbury. For those that don't know, Danbury lost, I think it was Moody's. It was Moody's, pulled their rating from Danbury. They didn't lower it. They just pulled it, said, you haven't been doing your, they're not tax returns, their annual reports timely because they were like 18 months, 24 months behind. And Moody's just pulled it. So Danbury still is rated by 2 other people. So they're not in really bad shape, but it's not good, but so going into our rating, I was like, I'm pretty sure we're getting reaffirmed. We're doing all the right things. But it's nerve wracking until it comes back. You go, okay, good. We're good. So they pretty much told us on the call, they said, look, I don't get to make the final decision, but everything looks good. So they were very happy. Dan joked afterwards. They said management was good. They said everything else was great, but they said management was good. So all good there. The latest projection is $1.5 million in savings over 15 years with the refinance. If you put that in present value, it's just over $1 million in savings. We're hoping it's a little bit better when we have this bond sale tomorrow. Couple things we have going for us. We're the only one going out this week in Connecticut. One of the few actually in New England going out. We're AAA. A lot of other towns that are going out this week or cities that are going out this week aren't. So we're hoping to beat the projection a little bit. So we'll see. Initially, 6 weeks ago, the estimate was $3 million in savings. That quickly went away. We thought about delaying, but if we're still projected to get $1.5 million in savings between the general fund and the sewer department, talking through it a lot with Dan and other people that we didn't want to risk losing $1.5 million in savings to the Bethel taxpayers and sewer users by trying to go for 2 million or more. So that's where we're at.
So
We'll
you're
s-
taking tomorrow's, what your best offer is tomorrow?
So we don't have to take it. So what we decided today is we're gonna progress. We're gonna go ahead and have the bond sale. If we don't like what they are, we have the ability to say no, thank you, and reject all of them. It wouldn't look great, but that's what we'll do if we're not happy with the number. My guess is if they're saying 1.5, we're hoping to get over 1.6, because we're hoping it's conservative, but it sounds dumb, but the way the market's been lately, a lot can happen between now and 11:30 tomorrow when this thing closes. So
Nick said there's no dumb questions unless it's his brother, but you mentioned that it was, 6 weeks ago, your estimate was that it could have been a 3 million.
Yeah.
How did you, and you said that disappeared. Tell me how we go from 3 to 1.5, hopefully tomorrow.
there's so many factors in it. Some of it, the Fed has dropped the interest rate twice. So I think it was 5
And was
weeks
that
ago.
reactive? I mean, twice, meaning the second time was last week.
Yeah, so this first time they dropped it 50 basis points, so half a percentage. And this past time they did a quarter or 25 basis points. They dropped, that's on short term.
It's not the bond.
But it's not like a
It's
one to
not
one
all of the
ratio.
equation, right?
But what it does, that has a negative effect on our bond in the sense that when we refinance it, we hold the money for 90 days. So when they drop the short-term rates, now we're going to make 75 basis points less for that 90 days that the money's sitting there. So that $27 million when it sits in the bank, it's going to earn less interest for us. That's not $1.5 million, obviously, but that's a
That's
factor.
part of,
Some of it is the long-term rates are all market-based. So it's all about what they're projecting, right? So that's why it can jump around a lot. It's all dictated by what the market's doing. And Bob understands this better than me because I've gotten a crash course in it, but it's like, oh, it sounds almost like the housing market. Like your house is worth what somebody will pay you for it. And right now, when we go out to bid for it, if somebody really wants Bethel's business and gives us a great rate, we'll do better. But the trending says we're going to get $1.5 million in savings, not $3 million. And there's so many different factors in it. And when we were going back and forth on whether or not to do it, not even that nobody knows what's going to happen in the next 90 days because our rating's good for 90 days. It's everybody has guesses what's going to happen, but if you knew what was going to happen over the next 90 days with it, you'd make a fortune, So,
well, and then I guess I'd agree to take the 1.5 million now, if that's what the offer is tomorrow.
yeah. And that's how we ended up here. And the 3 was crazy. But if we had done it, if we were able to pull the trigger in that moment, like if you were going out and buying a house and if right now the going rate's 5%, if you're ready to buy that house, you can lock it in that moment. For us, we have to go out and get a rating. We have to go out and do a bid sale. Even now that we have a rating, if we didn't do it tomorrow, we'd still need a week if something happened with the market to react. So a week doesn't sound like a lot, but like Friday morning, we were at 1.25 million in savings. Monday, we're at 1.5. It's volatile.
But it could
Do we
jump
know
back
what
down,
tomorrow
too.
is? Or we don't know what tomorrow is?
We
until
don't
now?
know until we get the bids. So, and we, like I said, we do have the ability to reject them. But at a projection of $1.5 million, we could stare at this thing for the next really 70 days because you need a week, and it's been a week or a week and a half since we got our rating, and try to jump in a moment in time and go, we hope a week from now it's still there, but it could drop again, so yeah, it's been,
They're factoring in another 0.25% rate cut soon, aren't they?
No.
yeah, so but
That's
because they're
short-term.
going out 15 years, Bill, they're factoring all kinds of things in there. I think most people assume in the next 15 years we're going to have a recession. You
At some
know,
point.
but 3 years ago, 4 years ago, people would have thought we would have had a recession by now. You know, and in the inflation rate's done a number on our economy at a different rate, you know, like, but all the metrics of the economy right now are strong. You know, but who knows? Who knows what happens?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, even though we know what the president and all that is settled, what's going to happen, but they don't know what's going to, you know, like new president gets sworn in 50 days. Congress changes, House changes. There's so much volatility out there too, that we could be kicking ourselves if we go back and look that we should have waited 2 weeks, or if you don't thank God we did it. So it's one of those things that I'm going to try not to look at it once we set it and go, all right, because we can't, you got to wait 10 years till you can do it
Well, you
again.
can't Monday morning quarterback. You have to make the best decision in the
Yeah.
present. Right.
So
Bob, did Brad miss anything from the seminar or did he hit it pretty good?
I think he hit it on the head.
He had a good teacher, obviously, right? The management was good.
You know, look, I think they've done all the upfront thought and analysis that you can do. And at some point, I think John's comment, you just got to pull the trigger, right? Otherwise you end up in this analysis paralysis. Take the win, put it up on the board.
Yep.
And move on to the next.
Don't worry about the next
Move on
one.
to the next thing.
So.
Make sure it makes sense to me.
and we did, knock on wood, a lot of our other debt is locked in at good rates. Like we timed the market really well when we locked in the money for the schools. You know, we actually, I'm going to say we, but it was Kozlowski and Manfredo bonded the last part of the schools earlier than we thought because it was a good time to bond money long-term, right? Is that a fair assessment? Because we could have rolled that short-term for a little bit longer, but they saw an opportunity and jumped in, you know? So even though Town of Belleville is a decent amount of debt, it's locked in at pretty good rates, you know? So, and I'm hoping that tomorrow we get even better than we're projecting, but so.
Okay.
Great.
Is there anything else? Oh, Brad?
That's all I have.
Does anybody have any questions for Brad? Even dumb questions like John's? Someone
I'll
make
make a motion to accept Brad's report.
I'll take it, Joe.
Okay, great. And that looks like everything on the agenda. Mary,
Well, you gotta vote on
You gotta
it.
vote on it first.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, you're right. Everybody in favor, please signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Thank you, Cynthia. Mary, do you want to keep this meeting going or you want to get out of here?
I'll make a motion that we
It's-
adjourn.
Excellent. I'm sorry, Cynthia, did you want to add something?
Just said it's 1:15 in the morning, so I would like to carry on all night. Let's just keep going.
You're ready to go. All right, so we have a motion, we have a second. All in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
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 Thank you. Cynthia, thanks for staying up late, even though you're a friend. Thank you.
Now, as winter goes on, these meetings will get longer.
Yeah, they're coming.
I don't know. Who's second?
Who seconded the adjournment?
I think John